We're raising a lot of heaven, the country parson.
Hi, friends. Can you name the sidekicks of the Lone Ranger, Roy Rogers, and Butch Cassidy? Well, it's Tonto, Trigger, and the Sundance Kid, right? Do you remember the days of listening to their stories? Without the help of Tonto, the Lone Ranger may have never caught the cattle rustlers. We can get distracted, and it helps to have a second pair of eyes on the trail. Too often, though, we're out in the pasture alone, and usually it's too late when we find that we've already stepped in the cow patty. We all need someone who will stick by us through thick and thin of our life. The Bible tells us that there is someone who sticks closer than a brother. He's our ever-present help in the time of need, the Bible says. Friends, Jesus is no sidekick. In fact, He's the trail boss. And by placing your trust in Him completely, you will be protected from life's cow patties. Will you trust in Him today? If not, better watch where you step. You be encouraged.
AgriBusiness, brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Bryan, thank you for joining us this morning here on the show. The 80s were not kind to family farmers. The way land prices are right now, do you see some people putting themselves in that same situation?
We have the potential for the start of the same kind of thing that happened back in the 70s. If you compare the 70s with the current situation, on an inflation-adjusted basis, the 70s were extremely profitable. We had some things going on, a very optimistic environment in production agriculture. We were going to feed the world, and wheat price rose and was really high, and some tremendous profitability. 1973 was extremely profitable. 1978, 1979 were very profitable. We had an inflationary environment back there, and just such an optimistic environment where people bid the price of land up very high. Probably bid it out beyond what the fundamentals would have supported at the time. And then incomes collapsed, interest rates rose, and land values dropped by about half. And so there are some differences between then and now. Currently, a lot of land purchases are not being made with leverage. People are returning profits and using that profits, bidding those profits back into land values. And so, individuals are not as highly leveraged, but we're just at the start of this thing. This thing could unfold like back in the 70s and 80s. It's something to worry about. I think that potentially people might be underestimating the risk on the income side for production agriculture. Interest rates are extremely low. They will rise down the road. It's just that this is going to unfold very slowly. And so right now, there are not very many good alternatives other than just bidding profits back into land, because the stock market is so risky. CDs don't earn much interest, and so individuals bid that money back into land. And we actually have a little blip up in terms of a PE ratio, the price to earnings ratio, price of land divided by the earnings. It's higher than it's been really back into the 80s, actually. It's not extraordinarily out of line, but it leads one to be a little bit concerned about just where the current land market is going, because prices are rising so rapidly.
Well, you look at grain production here in the state versus grazing. In your estimation, is there a difference between buying it for grain production versus grazing?
There is, but it's interesting. Those higher prices are kind of across the grazing land as well as crop land, and so that rising tide raises everybody's boat, and so prices are rising in both places. And so the productivity in production agriculture has just trickled over into the land market in both of those situations. It's not just the crop production. And in many places there's getting to be some pasture land or grass land that's getting to be torn up, again trying to get some of those profits on the crop side. And so no, it's all rising, even though there have been years when livestock production has not been as profitable. but it's rising across the whole sector.
Now, what about commercial versus agriculture? Is there a battle going on there?
There's outside interest in land values, or in land also as an investment. I know that some big investment companies are investing in agricultural land, and we get some off-farm investor interest. But lots of the purchases actually are farmers bidding at auction for the piece that's close to both of them, and those prices tend to go quite high.
Someone, and we just got a few seconds here left together, someone's wanting to try to make that land purchase. How would they sit down and determine it's worth it or not worth it?
Well, you need to really emphasize cash flow and profitability. You know, I think one of the things that happened in the 70s was lending was based on asset values as opposed to on cash flow and profitability. If people continue to emphasize cash flow and profitability, it'll help them keep out of trouble.